No, it's fine. I never been there, but I suppose it's in the north, right?
Yeah, just Midwest, we have lots of farms and stuff. So yeah, this time of year, the wind really picks up and everything's in the air, and
Yes, I know.
yeah,
When it doesn't, right? Like every day, it seems like it's the allergy season.
yeah. Well, and
It,
about here, it'll go from like really cold to really hot in the same day. Like I will wear a coat, wear shorts, and maybe it'll like rain. It'll be like a 30-degree difference. So
the same happens here in LA. It's crazy. Like it should be very warm in this time of the year. It's not. It's crazy. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes it's just cold. I don't understand.
yeah,
Well, I don't know. It's the climate. I think it's changing.
it's crazy.
Right? So, thank you for being here, Megan. I didn't know you were a mom when I just found you on one of the groups that I am in.
Mhm.
So, I'm happy to have you here, and so you can explain us more about branding because what I've realized myself is that if you don't know exactly what do you want and how you can communicate that with your target clients, you will stuck you will get stuck in at some point. So it's very helpful that we have you here and you can explain us more about branding. So if you can tell us more about yourself, like an intro, what do you do, whatever you want to say.
Okay, well, my name is Megan. I'm from Iowa. I went to school for graphic design. I hadn't really thought about going out on my own, but just I had worked with a few jobs, I wasn't enjoying it, so decided to go out on my own. I learned very quickly that branding was important, and even as you know, being taught graphic design, those are a lot of things that you just kind of learn through experience too. So I just started working finding work through other people. I self-taught a lot, to be honest. A lot of it is just figuring it out and finding what works. So that's why I want to help educate other people, because it takes a lot of time learning these things. And if I can make it easier for someone else, you know,
Definitely.
expect that process a little bit, then hopefully they can kind of be a little bit more successful faster. So.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Well, I think most of us like just we have teach us how to do all of these things that we're doing. And one of the things that I like about this community is that we help each other to help others to do it in a more short way, kind of, because
Mhm.
we have done it. I have done many things for 2 years, and it's been a trial and error process. So I
Right.
just want to make it easier for a lot of moms here in our community, just to help them with what I am good at. And now that you are here with the branding process, how do you describe branding? What we should do in order to have a good branding in our business?
Okay. And it's actually very simple. Once I really thought about it, and when you're thinking about branding, think about it as a person. That's what branding really is. It's
Right.
the person, the personality, the look. So how would a person talk? How would they ask a question? What kind of attributes do they have? Are they relaxed? Are they quirky? Are they really energetic and fun? So those are the kind of the same questions that you would ask of your brand. And that's kind of how you go from there. You find these words that really describe your brand, and then you kind of narrow that down to what really describes, what you want your brand to be or who you really think your brand is. And then you can kind of like go from there to create like a visual board, or, use something like Pinterest, if you're kind of a quirky, fun brand, you can like kind of look up, what does that mean? What does that look like? And kind of pick and choose what you're drawn to, and then that's sort of how you start creating the whole brand. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it's like a storytelling. It's
Okay.
that whole person. It's not just the logo. It's not just a phrase. It's how people remember you. It's what they say about you when you're not in the room. It's everything. It's why people keep coming back to you.
Okay, so you say like it's the personality you put into your website, into your logo, maybe the colors you're using. Uh, this has happened to me a lot, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs relate to this. Like, what are the colors that you think it would be the best for other people to see in your website? Because it doesn't matter that you have a very strong personality. I might like gold colors or red, but you
Mhm.
know that's not good for websites. That's not good for logos. So if you have this branding and you have this personality, how can we do it correctly? You know, because maybe my personality is not the best one visually.
Um, well, and that's something that's sort of changing too, to be honest, because there used to be these very strict rules about logos and websites. And quite honestly, I feel like the last 5 years have definitely changed and that the rules don't necessarily apply anymore. But as far as colors, I mean, like red, it can be anger, it can be rage, but it can also be love. So you have to kind of think about, well, what other attribute can you bring along with it so that you get across the correct feeling that people get from it.
Right.
And as far as websites, red is fine. Maybe reserve that red for a call to action like call me or sign up now, or maybe not such a harsh red, maybe a slightly, orangey red, or, I mean, there's little tweaks there that you can do, but I think the overall thing is finding a combination of words and attributes that'll help, either soften the message or, portray yourself the way you want.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, I agree completely with you. And what questions can we use to find our big why in our business? Because sometimes you know what you want and you know exactly how you want it. But for me, for example, I never asked myself when I started my business, how am I gonna communicate this to my target? I used to just find out like what's the demographics for my target, how old is she, and everything. But I never realized how important it is to find their personality. So what questions can we use to find our big why in our business? Why are we doing this? To whom are we doing that? You know?
And I think that might be different for every person, but I think it really boils down to like, why is your business around? What is the goal that you want to accomplish with it? Um, is there a type of person you are really wanting to help, or is there a certain problem you really want to solve? What are your core values? I think there's a lot that goes into that why, and it's really hard to say like, what's for me is not going to be the exact same thing as someone else, and sometimes that can change. You may decide that you're kind of gravitating more towards one area, and so you may need to decide to revise your brand a little bit to more incorporate that the route you're going.
Right.
Um,
So you think
so
it's more like you will get it over time, because I realized that I was getting really frustrated that I didn't understand exactly who was my ideal client. So then I thought to myself, maybe this is a process. Maybe it's not something that I just need to find out right away. I just need to do it. And I have realized that I have tweaked it, and I've done a lot of changes here and there in my social media, in my website, because I'm getting to know my clients. I'm starting to listen to
right.
them, you know? So I think it's a process, right?
Yeah, I think it is. And, like when I started out, it was, well, I like helping people. And I kind of initially thought that was just developing, you know, marketing materials for businesses. But then the more I did it, the more I realized that, what I really enjoy is helping them, understand something or helping them be able to do something themselves. Because there are times when business owners really need to get, let's say, a Facebook ad up. They don't have time to hire a graphic designer. They have to get it up now. So I would
Right.
love to be able to give them at least the basic tools, and so that they can create a Facebook ad that works and is visually appealing. It may not be perfect, but it's, it really helps them a lot more than it would have had they not been given that knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, as I said, a process. But how do you communicate to your clients? Like, what's the language you should use with them?
It really depends on each audience. So you really have to step back and say, all right, well, who is my audience? Who's my ideal client? And then you have to say, well, where are they? Where do they spend their time at? A teacher is not going to be in the same place as, let's say, like a CEO of a large corporation. So you really have to figure out where they're spending their time, and you have to meet them there. You can't really force them to come to where you're at. If they're not on Snapchat, you can't make them go to Snapchat.
Right. Yeah,
So
definitely. That's a good thing that you mentioned. Your social media, the ones that you really, I've heard a lot of times, and I think they're right. You should rock one or two social medias. Don't do like the whole thing, because if not, you're gonna get drained and you're gonna get burned out. So you need to find which social medias are the ones your ideal client is using right now.
mhm.
But I have a question. Like, for example, if I don't know exactly how I want to communicate with my ideal client, for example, myself, I used to do on Instagram. I sell vintage clothes. So what I did on Instagram was the easiest thing. I just posted pictures, product shots, and my clients were okay liking them. But I saw that people liked more my pictures, my inspirational pictures, or my styling pictures. So you would say that, and that's how what I learned, that I don't have to post exactly what I'm selling, but I have to post the personality of my people that are my clients. You know what I mean?
Right. And, you have to think too that, Instagram is a totally different beast than Twitter is. So,
Yeah.
the people who spend a lot of time on Twitter or on Instagram they like good pictures. They like to have the inspirational quotes. So it's completely appropriate that, for Instagram, that's sort of what you do. But, maybe on Facebook, you have more of an in-depth explanation of like, well, these are the items that I have, it's more of a community where people can kind of talk. Twitter is more of like a town hall where you sort of just announce something and people can either respond to you or you can kind of follow what's going on in the town. So there's different ways to speak to the audience, and it's fine that you change it up for each platform because they are different and they each have different rules. So
Definitely. Yeah, I think so too. I think you should focus on one web social media, and when you have that done, probably move to the next one, and just find exactly what are the things that people retweets maybe, or regrams on Instagram, or pin on Pinterest. That way, you'll see how people react to every social media, and that way you can communicate.
mhm.
So, Megan, could you name 5 things we should add to our checklist in order to have a good branding? Like, how can I know that I'm doing the right thing in branding?
Well, actually, I wrote these down a little bit because I couldn't really keep track of what I was, you know, and it's really kind of hard coming up with like 5 actual things because I feel like with branding, the most important thing is your why, because it has to be in alignment with your actions and with everything else. If you have a look and feel that's completely different than the message that you're trying to send to people, it's going to confuse everyone. So you definitely want to have your why in place. You want to have that core value figured out. You want to have, the tone figured out.
Yes.
Like if you're a warm personality, it'd be weird to have very aggressive looking ads,
Right.
so you definitely want to have your tone figured out, which then it's sort of like a step where, once you have that figured out, you can apply that to your ads, your logo, your visual identity, your marketing materials. You want the language to match the tone that you set for your brand.
Right.
So I guess that's 3 things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Probably, maybe you have to check out your website as well, how everything is cohesive, maybe.
yeah, definitely. I mean, just in alignment, that's like really the biggest thing because if you start confusing your audience, they're not going to be quite sure if you're credible. They're going to start questioning, who are you? So,
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
would say like the main 3 things are like what I mentioned. So,
Okay. Yeah, and that exactly takes me to the next question. For example, I've heard that many of the moms here in the community, they have several businesses, or they don't exactly know how they can brand themselves, and how can they put their image into their business, for example. And I relate to this myself too, because I have a vintage store, I have this community, and I have a rock band, so I didn't know exactly how I was going to put my image into these 3 projects that I have right now.
mhm.
So how do you think people should do when they have several businesses? Should they just put them apart, of each other, all of them, or how can they manage to do one brand?
Right. I think it can be done both ways, and it's just something that each person has to sit down and really decide if it's really possible for all the businesses to really be cohesive. You know, if there are two that go really well together, then you could brand those two together and then have the one off. Um, you know, I feel like if there's going to be one project that's going to kind of take away from the others, then that's when I would probably separate that brand. But if there are projects that can live, you know, peacefully together and really enhance one another, then stay together. You have to make sure that your brand can also be broad enough to encompass all of that too, though. If you have a very specific brand that's like, I only help this one client with this one problem that they have, then, you know, you're very much in a niche, and you won't be able to successfully, I don't think, brand those other things under that same brand.
Right. I actually, what is exactly like the difference between niche and target market? Is there like, I read that niche is more a specific, like a more, not too many people, and the target market is more abroad. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say like the niche is more of like the subject, and then like, yeah, then like your target audience is like that audience for that particular thing
Oh,
that you're looking for.
got it.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So I have another question. How can we make branding for luxury products? And this was a question that we had in our community. And so I don't know if you can help us with that too.
Right. So luxury is definitely unique because it goes against a lot of the traditional marketing standards. Basically, luxuries they're exclusive, they're unique, they're very much like the products are, this is what I am and I'm not changing. And, you know, some people can afford me, the rest of you can't. Everyone can admire me, but not everyone can have me. So luxury is very, it's kind of tricky because you don't want to have so much of a supply of it. You kind of want to appear like there's only a limited amount. You want to appear that it's only for, you know, like a certain amount of people. Usually with that type of branding, you really hone in on the elements of like origin, or it's like handcrafted, or it's from like a certain country, or has a really deep and rich heritage. You really want to play up those factors. It's prestigious. It's kind of hard to reach. It's unique, and then you have to be kind of careful too, because then like the brand obviously needs to kind of have that same sort of feeling about it. You know, it has to have that look of kind of being, I guess, expensive, or, you know, like that luxury feel.
Right. So you maybe probably use another type of colors. You have to be very aware of the colors you're using. Probably just use like the colors that I think there are more luxurious. That is black and white kind of. And I think it would be another good idea to just, as you said, find out who's the person you're trying to reach, and then find their personalities, what they do, where they hang out, and everything. And that with that, you make like a cohesive brand yourself, right?
Right. So like when you're advertising for a luxury brand, you're not so much worried about reaching just the target audience. You actually want to reach everyone because you want everyone to know about your brand. But you want to make it very clear that not everyone can afford it. You know, it's a dream, because luxury items are not a necessity. They're not needed. They're very much like, you just want this. So they can kind of have that sort of kind of arrogance about it a little bit, because like they're luxury. They're, you know, spendy usually. So
you should make I think luxury, when I will have the time, or maybe the resources to buy something luxury, I think what I would like to do is to kind of think of me as a powerful woman, and just I would like to feel secure, powerful, unique. I have this. So I think luxury goes right hand to hand with that kind of emotions and feelings. So I would recommend Kate, which who was the one who asked this, just to basically think about this kind of woman, what they feel when they have these luxury products, and just go with them, you know?
Right.
So, Megan, I have another question for you. How can we make sure our branding stays intact even when our business is evolving?
I think that has a lot to do with, so like, if you're just not getting a lot of clients or not selling a lot of items, or is that what you're asking?
Basically, it's more like, for example, right now I have this idea. Right now I have my vintage store, I have my website done and everything. But probably in 6 months, I would say, hey, I just find out my target likes this too, or likes this color better, you know? So how can we keep my cohesive going, because businesses grow and also evolve? So how can we keep our branding just intact? Because sometimes even you get bored of what you did like 2 years ago with your branding or with your logo. I have changed my logo like 5 times because I get bored easily. So my question is, how can you do a good change in your branding without confusing your audience?
Right. And this might be more of like a personal preference. For me, I would say try not to change it as much as possible. Like if you decide to do a rebrand, then I think it's one of those things where you really need to educate your audience that, you know, kind of make them a part of it. Like we're rebranding, you know, maybe even like if you can't decide, maybe, you know, which ones do you like better? You see larger businesses, organizations do this as well. Um, yeah, I mean, rebranding is kind of hard sometimes. Sometimes it's easier coming up with a completely new brand than it is to rebrand, because people have that experience. People have those memories of how the brand used to be. So you want to be careful because you don't want people to not recognize you. That's why when you're first developing your logo, you really have a strong understanding of your brand so that those core elements may not change. Maybe some of the colors will change, but the overall feeling and look and those core things will still be there and people will still recognize you.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, nowadays, like Instagram changed their logo. People were upset for about a week and people forgot about it. So, you know, so
yeah, it's like that.
As it goes on, it's hard to say if it's really such a big deal anymore.
Right.
So, as long as you're true to your brand and you're still delivering the quality, and you obviously make sure that your audience still knows who you are and you keep them updated, I think that'd probably do it as far as, you know, making sure it's okay.
Right. I understand. Perfect. And again, sometimes we're like startups, okay? So we normally don't have the kind of money to be spending in graphic designers or in branding experts. So how can you recommend us to do it like a low budget thing? How can we start doing our branding without spending so much money?
Okay. Well, as far as doing it for yourself, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, really think about who your brand is. You know, find those words that describe your brand, and then go to something like Pinterest or Google Images and like search for, you know, for those words, things that kind of describe those things, and you know, save the pictures, make a folder of all the visuals that kind of go along with that, and then start pulling colors. You know, as if you find that you're having a lot of blues and yellows or teal, you know, whatever color, you know, kind of keep track of all that. And then obviously, you know, find your ideal audience, so that, you know who you're targeting. And then you're kind of pulling it all together at the same time. You have your tone, you have your look, you have how your brand interacts with people, and then you have the audience that you have found and how they respond, where they're at, how they talk. You try to kind of make that a cohesive partnership right there. And then as far as like actual visuals, you know, once you have all that down, I feel like if you go into something like Canva or Adobe Spark, where you can do a lot of the same things. You can do video there too. Then, you know, it's free. You can create your graphics there. You can, you know, pull images that really kind of, you know, describe your business, and just start making your things through that. They work very well. I use Canva sometimes just for the sake of time.
Yeah, I use Canva as well, and I normally use the free stuff where they don't have too much free stuff, but it's pretty fun even. You know, I thought to myself that I was never gonna be able to do like graphic design or anything, but it's pretty fun the way they did it, and I think we have a lot of resources right now to do it by ourselves. We
Mhm.
do need the help of a branding expert like you, but I think we should start being more aware of how we wanted to do it
Right.
instead of just let it give it the whole work to a graphic designer, because sometimes even the graphic designer will be like, I understand exactly what do you want. So
Right.
my recommendation would be like, don't hire anyone. Don't know what do you want, how do you want to communicate to your brand, I mean to your audience. So the thing you said about doing a Pinterest board, I think it's awesome. I think it's a next smart way to start doing what you want to do and get things more clear.
Right. There's so many free resources out there, and even if you decide to like talk with a branding expert maybe for just like 30 minutes just to help you maybe set up something or get a better idea, as a graphic designer, I totally don't mind setting up my clients with Canva and other free resources because there are times where it's like they need to do something right away, so I want them to do well, obviously, so I will
Definitely.
help themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much, Megan. And so we're running out of time. So Megan, I just want to ask you, like, what do you do? What are your services? How can we find you? Do you have a website? Tell us more about your story and your business. So here, Megan is here in the community, so you can always tag her, and she could help you easily. But do you have a website? How can we find you easily?
right. Yep, I have a website. It's www.prolificbanana.com. It's a little weird, but it kind of sticks in people's heads, which is why I have kept
I
it.
love the banana. Why banana?
Honestly, I made that thing when I was in college, and it was just for some reason I connected with it, and it makes me smile. So
I
I
love
just
it.
yeah, I just kept with it. I didn't really want my name in my business. That was a lot of people want to have their own name as far as like marketing services or consulting, and for me it just wasn't what I wanted, because maybe like in the future I want to grow my business, so and have multiple people maybe working with me, so it's kind of why I chose that too. But yeah, you can visit my website. I have a Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. um,
As prolific banana as well?
yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Once in a while, I write some blogs. They're probably under my real name. And then I do have a blog that's attached to my website, which I just started. So
Okay, that's awesome. So thank you so much for being here, Megan. Thank you for your time. It was really helpful. I think every day I get more clear on how we're gonna do, well, how I'm gonna do my business. And I think to start a right business and to start with the right foot, you need to understand well you and what you want and why you're doing this. Because at the beginning I was like, oh, I can do that. You know, I kind of thought about the idea, but I never thought I could do it. So I was like, okay, let's do it, but never thought more deeply about how can I start doing it. And to be honest with you, I have realized that the first thing you have to realize is branding and who you're talking to and who's your ideal client. There's no way you're gonna make it if you don't understand them. So if your big why is money, you have to stop as well, because I think that's never gonna work. You have to get into the feelings with your client and connect with them, and I think that's what we need to do.
right, and it can be as simple as just starting a conversation about your business, and just from having like a short conversation with somebody, like you see the wheels turning and them just starting to understand their brand so much more just within a 5-minute conversation. So it's not like you have to spend hours and hours and hours doing it. It's just having that realization and just understanding that it is there, and it's something that needs to be refined. Uh,
Exactly. And actually I did that. I did a survey where I just find out like who loves vintage. Okay, so I did a survey and I asked them their hobbies. I asked them what they do in their daily routine, what they like, and I found like a pattern, and that's how I started doing, like, okay, I understand now who is my ideal client. So surveys are great, and you can always ask for help. People, I am amazed how many people wants to help.
Yeah, since joining a couple of the groups that we're in, I feel like even me, like I'm just doing so much better because I'm thinking about it more and seeing other people's opinions and showing me different ways of thinking about things. So
Exactly.
talk
Yeah,
as much as you can to people, ask questions. It's the easiest way to get information. So.
Definitely, definitely. And don't be afraid to ask them. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Megan. Thank you for being here. And I'm so happy to have you in our community. And I hope to see you soon again.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you. I'll send a link to the reply if so. I'll post it in the community.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.